Welcome to a new video. Behind me you can see a Mercedes S-Class F450 4Matic. 4Matic stands for all-wheel drive. But does this vehicle really still have all-wheel drive? Let's take a look at that in this video. I have already removed the exhaust, the prop shaft and the transfer case from the vehicle. Here we can see that previous damage has been repaired. The problem is that Mercedes does not supply the appropriate spare part separately. A completely new gearbox would therefore have to be fitted. The workshop then helped themselves by simply building up the defective part, which means that the four-wheel drive no longer works. We have a small repair solution that would have saved the four-wheel drive. Now let's take a closer look. We have obtained an old part from another vehicle. This part is already missing from our vehicle. The problem is often that this sleeve here, which sits on the drive shaft, breaks and splash water then gets in here, which then leads to damage to the joint. The component fails and this causes the cadmium plated shaft, which goes to the front, to hit the gearbox. Another reason may be that these bearings at the rear wear out, both on this shaft and on this shaft. This is the one that engages here, so to speak. They sit together like this, and if these bearings disintegrate, they are distributed in the gearbox at the rear and can cause even greater damage there. This part is not available separately from Mercedes. We have put together a complete repair solution for you, which includes everything. Firstly, a new pre-greased joint and the bearing components. All the bearings you need for the shafts and also the bearing shells. You then have to replace them all in the housing. We have the oil seals with us, one at the rear for the crankshaft and one at the front for the universal joint, which we are replacing. Also important is the bolt for the hollow shaft and the nut that goes on the rear of the joint where the cardan shaft is screwed on. Sealant is also included to seal the whole thing properly again. If the other workshop had had the parts kit in front of us, they would certainly have repaired the four-wheel drive completely. Unfortunately, this is what they did. They welded the parts together in here. This also means that we can no longer take it apart. This is an irreparable repair. Normally, this part would be attached here, which we also had to get separately. Unfortunately, we can't put it back together now. The spot welds mean that the whole thing no longer fits together. Yes, and the whole thing could have been saved if we'd had the right repair solution. 3 small special features. If you only want the bearing set, you can also get that from us. We'll show you the number. Then I would like to tell you more about this screw. Please pay close attention to the manufacturer's instructions on how to fasten the screw. There are 2 different methods, depending on the type of gearbox, and you should definitely take a look at the instructions. If we open the gearbox now, it will of course leak out. You should definitely change the oil. Ideally even flush it. Our solution is suitable for the 7G gearbox and the 7G Plus gearbox, which have different oils. That's why we haven't included the oil in our product. But you can get it separately from us. We show you the numbers here. You can remove the bearings with a normal puller. Place the appropriate plate in between and then pull out upwards. I would recommend thermally processing the bearings to press them in. We do this with a small mini oven, where we heat the bearings to 230 degrees and can then insert them with gloves on. Then you can put them on from above and don't need a press. It looks a little different for the bearing shells. You can heat the half of the housing after removing it. But with the other half in the vehicle, it is difficult to generate the heat. You can place the shells in a freezer compartment to make installation a little easier. You will then definitely need the pressing tool and can hammer in the bearing shells. If the material is hard, it is important that you always rest on the outside of the edge and not on the bearing surface. If you have a mandrel that rests on the inside, it should definitely be softer than the material of the bearing. This will make installation easier. You're still here. I have to reassemble the whole thing now. If you're interested in more repair solutions, be sure to subscribe to our channel. And now back to the workshop. The boss is already waiting for you.